I've got a King's Gambit to show you. Hikaru Nakamura against Magnus Carlsen. This is a real treat, an Armageddon game from round 3 of Norway chess. In the classical game, Nakamura bailed out with a draw very quickly. It was a very well-trodden line in the Marshall Gambit that promised white absolutely nothing. So he basically just decided, right, I want to play the Armageddon game. So the rules: 10 minutes for white, 7 minutes for black, but if it's a draw, then black wins. You'll find the full details on the Norway chess site. Anyway, here we go. Nakamura with white. Now, instead of playing knight f3 as he did in the classical game, he played f4. Fantastic. Going for the King's Gambit. Interesting to see how Carlsen faced this. Well, he took knight f3 and Carlsen played g5. So we have now h4 from Nakamura. In my DVD for Chess Base, I recommended knight c3. So this can lead to very interesting positions after this, and queen h4 check and so on. It's really good fun. But h4, well, this is the Kizaritsky. This is an ancient line. And so interesting to see how Carlsen handles this. He actually goes back to a line he played when he was a teenager. You know, Carlsen's theoretical knowledge is really superb, even in these, well, seemingly quite obscure lines. He really has a very good idea of what to do. I mean, there are several good moves for black here, but d6 is one of the stronger ones. I mean, it can't be a bad move. You're basically starting your development. Knight f6. I think it's really interesting that Carlsen went for this. It's a very pragmatic choice, actually. You're just saying, okay, I want to bring my pieces out very quickly. And when you do this, although this pawn isn't very good, you know, if white can win that, then, you know, black's kingside isn't very good. The thing is, in this position, the squares on the g file are weakened as well. So in fact, the position is very balanced here. But I think the important thing from black's viewpoint is that it's very simple to play. Black is simply developing very naturally, very quickly. You know, it only takes a couple of moves. Move the knight, move the bishop, and black is going to castle queenside. Knight c3 is the main theoretical move. And as I said, Carlsen has played this before when he was, I think, around 13 years old, Dubai 2004. And the game went like this. Here, bishop b5, and this is a fairly well-known position actually to theory. And king d8 is a very good move. That's theoretically, it's the best move. So Carlsen knew what he was doing, you know, way back. And after this, well, the game petered out to a draw fairly quickly. But basically, black is absolutely fine in this position. Curiously enough, Carlsen's sister, Ellen Carlsen, also played this in 2004. She played bishop e6 and also got a very reasonable position. So, well, the Carlsen family know what they're doing in this line. But knight c3 just looks like the best move. Just bring your piece out. And it's roughly level, but I think the important thing is black's moves are fairly natural, apart from that king d8 move, which, well, Carlsen knew the best move. But Nakamura played d3, and this does look very tame. Knight c6, so you can see, you know, black's development is pretty simple here, and white is way behind. White's piece is still on the starting blocks here. Queen f3. Well, if white can recover that pawn, it's doing pretty well. But bishop h6. Material is level still. I should say. But it makes a lot of sense for black to keep hold of this one because it actually bottles in this bishop. And now white has to watch out for this knight coming in. So queen f2 and rook g8. This is the problem for white, that there is always pressure down here. So it's really not easy for white to take the initiative here. And I would say this is, well, it just looks much easier for black to play than white, basically. Knight c3. So the knight wants to hop in here. So yes, bishop g4, knight d5 is very annoying. And then bishop takes f4. Now white is better. So bishop e6, bishop d2. Here Carlsen castle queenside. It's a good move. Funny thing is, bishop g4 is actually a very good move here. My computer indicates this. It's funny, you know, you're wasting a move. The point is this: you're preventing white from castling. That's one thing, and of course that's significant. But knight d5 doesn't work now that the bishop stands on this square, and queen takes b2 is just very good for black. Black has a big advantage in this position. The king is the problem. It's not going to reach safety, whereas black is going to castle very soon. Knight takes isn't possible. Well, remember there's a bishop hanging at some point. So yeah, it's curious. Bishop e6, and then on this move, bishop g4 is actually really strong for black. Okay, well, that was all a bit too subtle, of course, for, well, it's almost a blitz game. It's basically a blitz game. 10 minutes versus 7 minutes. Carlsen just went queenside, and it's a really solid position. Black's pieces are very harmoniously placed. Castle's queenside as well. Queen d4, yeah, why not? Let's exchange this one off, and that just brings the knight to a good position. There's pressure on g2. It's just a much easier position for black to play than white. I mean, I would even say black is better there. Nakamura declined the queen exchange. Remember, he's in a must-win situation. So Carlsen stepped away again. The queen is in a nice position. Knight e2. So Nakamura is struggling to try to win that f4 pawn, which really restricts white's pieces and, you know, also cramps that pawn as well. Black has two good moves here. d5 is a good break, and the move that Carlsen played, f5, is also promising. Just opening things up, breaking down white's centre. g3 played. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes, and queen f5. Well, white can play bishop h3 here, and at least develop that bishop. And after this, well, you can see that white actually wins a pawn, but black has really good compensation here. You know, white's pieces are kind of poorly coordinated. That queen is somehow way offside, not connecting with the other pieces. The rook is beautifully placed. These pawns don't look very beautiful. So that's probably Nakamura's best, but Carlsen would also be fine in that position. Knight g3 instead. Queen f7. Now watch out. There are threats here. There's threats down here. That knight is a little bit loose. This is difficult for white now. f5. Exchange of bishops on d2. You can take on a2 here, but bishop d7 is even better. So queen takes a2 threatened. The king goes in the corner, and now knight e5. And that knight is coming into f3. Well, I know I'm going to sound like a stuck record, but just compare the two positions. Black's pieces really well coordinated. There are no real weaknesses in black's position. Whereas White's pieces are really ragged. That knight lacks protection. These pieces, well, they're not really in the game at all. It's a nice position for black. Queen e3 prevents this one and looks down at a7. Pawn takes pawn. Now, Nakamura recaptured here. Queen takes a7 isn't good. There's a simple move for black. I know mate in 1 is threatened, but bishop c6 is a good move. The king has a flight square. The knight is threatened. The rook is threatened. This is absolutely horrible. White's position is a wreck. I mean, look at this. Pieces are just scattered in different corners of the board. Black stands very, very well. So Nakamura recaptured here. Bishop c6 looks like a good square. Hits the rook. Knight blocked. And Carlsen played king b8. Just guarding that pawn. So what's the material situation? Actually, it's level. But black's structure is beautiful. As ever, Carlsen's pieces are well coordinated. There are no weaknesses in black's position. White's position is a wreck, an absolute wreck. Rook e8. Good move. Setting up some nasty tactics. Look at those pins on the e-file, on the long diagonal. Well, you can see what's coming here. Rook c1. In fact, it's possible to take here straight away and then take here. I suspect that Carlsen was sort of thinking, oh, well, this might get messy. In fact, this is just good for black. Knight b4. But instead, he played bishop d5. And this is just avoiding all trouble. So the bishop just steps out of the way of the rook, hits a2. So that now Carlsen is set for knight takes d3 again. Nakamura defended against that, but just allowed this pawn to drop. And now White's king is in terrible trouble. Queen d7, and Carlsen is going on the attack. Queen d4 stops queen a4, but queen b5 anyway. King b1, knight c6, hitting the queen. Exchange of rooks. The queen came back, and bishop b3. So that just locks the king on b1. And this is the very simple and very effective plan that Carlsen has. Nakamura is shaking, trying to shake things. Knight e4, rook f1. He's trying to, give his king an escape route and blocking the e-file, but no, this is too much. Knight d4, excellent move, with the idea that after a check, well, let's show this. Check here, and knight e2, forking king and queen. Bishop g4 played, stopping knight e2. A check. Lots of ways to win. Carlsen just picked up the rook. So he's the exchange ahead, and now he crashed in with bishop takes d3. It's a very simple way to play. If queen takes, then queen f4 check. Both those pieces are hanging. Knight f6, and one last move from Carlsen. He played rook e2 check, and Nakamura resigned. Well, let's just see a possible finish. If that's taken, then the king gets checked around and c5, for example. Or king takes d3. Okay, this is possible. Check. And queen c6. That's a nice checkmate. Well, I thought that was a really impressive game by Carlsen. Nakamura tried to confuse things. He's a brilliant speed player. But it's so impressive to see Carlsen, first of all, handle this tricky opening with ease. This is a very clever line, very pragmatic, that just gives black a very easy position to play. This is not the refutation of the King's Gambit, But I tell you what, it makes life very easy for black. So good opening choice from Carlsen, responding to the King's Gambit. And yeah, later on in the game, he just had everything under control. And I think, when we see this position with all black's pieces really well placed and no weaknesses in black structure, that's when you realise, oh yeah, this is really sensible play against the King's Gambit, where you can see white's pawn structure is just an utter wreck. Great play from Carlsen. So, well, he's bounced back. He hasn't won a classical game yet, but he's been successful in 2 Armageddon games. So Carlsen is definitely back in the tournament after his first round loss. Hit that subscribe button. I want to reach 100k. Thanks for watching.